Wednesday, November 27th, 2019, MONERO 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. This morning, I'm going to talk about the challenge to the Federal Reserve System from the bottom up. I'm going to talk about how countries are also withdrawing some of their gold from the Bank of England, which is very encouraging for the monetary system, I would say, and the fight against central banks. Before I start though, as this week is Thanksgiving week, the markets are going to get very quiet from today. They'll be shut tomorrow, of course. Friday they'll be open, but very quiet. We also have Black Friday and Cyber Monday. I never thought I would use those to promote my channel, but you need to do what you need to do. I've got my MONERO 64 Teespring store. You can go there now until Monday and get a 20% discount on everything in there. Just use the promo code MONERO 64. Very simple. We've got loads of designs there, mugs, t-shirts. One of my favorites, of course, is the End the Fed mug, which I've got, which is probably the best-selling mug. It says, robbing Americans since 1913, and the Fed, right? And I've got another one, which is the equivalent of the End the Fed for the Bank of England, and it's the time to retire the old lady of Threadneedle Street and shut the bank's doors. The old lady of Threadneedle Street is the nickname for the Bank of England here. And on the other side, I've got a quote here from the founder of the Bank of England, William Patterson. And this is what he said: "The bank hath the benefit of all interest on all monies which it creates out of nothing." So there you go, hidden in plain sight, this comment from him. So yeah, if you want to get those mugs or Billy Silverbug mugs, Billy t-shirts and other t-shirts there, just go to the Teespring store below. There are some banners in the channel. There's a link as well in the description, and use the promo code. It's going to be good until Monday next week, the 20% off. So let's talk a little bit about the Federal Reserve and the challenge from the bottom up. Well, I saw this story yesterday, and it's from the Libertarian Institute. South Carolina Legal Tender Act would treat gold and silver as money. So this came out yesterday, November 26, 2019. So let's go through the article. A bill pre-filed in the South Carolina House would make gold and silver coins legal tender in the state. Passage of this bill would take a step toward creating currency competition in South Carolina and undermine the Federal Reserve's monopoly on money. Representative Stuart Jones filed House Bill 4678, or H4678, on November 20th, so just a week ago. Under the proposed law, and I quote here the proposed law, gold and silver coins minted, foreign or domestic, shall be legal tender in the state of South Carolina under the laws of this state. No person or other entity may compel another person or other entity to tender or accept gold or silver coin unless agreed upon by the parties. And it goes on to say, practically speaking, this would allow South Carolina residents to use gold or silver coins to pay taxes and other debts owed to the state. In effect, it would put gold and silver on the same footing as Federal Reserve notes. Quite amazing. The phrase, unless agreed upon by the parties, has important legal ramifications. This wording affirms the court's ability and constitutional responsibility, according to Article 1, Section 10, to require specific performance when enforcing such contracts. If voluntary parties agreed to be paid or to pay in gold and silver coin, South Carolina courts could not substitute any other thing, e.g. Federal Reserve notes, as payment. South Carolina could become the 4th state to recognize gold and silver as legal tender. Utah led the way, reestablishing constitutional money in 2011. Wyoming and Oklahoma have since joined. So this has not gone through yet, through the South Carolina House, and then I guess it would have to go through their Senate as well. And I think it's only going to start the process in January next year. And it's only 4 states. And I know there are 50 states, but sometimes things start slowly and then they snowball, right? So this is quite interesting. Let's keep reading the article here. It says the effect has been most dramatic in Utah, where United Precious Metals Association, UMPA, was established after the passage of the Utah Specie Legal Tender Act and the elimination of all taxes on gold and silver. UPMA offers accounts denominated in U.S. minted gold and silver dollars. The company also released the Utah Goldback. UPMA describes it as the first local voluntary currency to be made of a spendable, beautiful physical gold. So let's keep going. This is very interesting. I think it's worth reading and worth people in other states thinking about this as well, trying to push this through on the local level instead of the federal level, because that's all the Federal Reserve needs. That's all we need to get the Federal Reserve under threat is the competition from the bottom, right? And the states are able to do that, which makes me go back a little bit. And I remember Hillary Clinton, and I think this was in 2008 when she was running, trying to run for president as well, I think. But quite a while ago, it was in 2016, she said something to the effect that they needed to abolish the Electoral College, that having the states participate like they do doesn't make sense, that they should just have a national election, right, and count the vote of each individual. So yeah, that's a thing that made me cringe a little bit. Like, here's a politician saying they want to basically abolish the states, take all their power away. So this is one of the things that the states need to do, in my opinion. So let's keep going. South Carolina had already repealed the sales tax on gold and silver. That removed one barrier to using gold and silver in everyday transactions. Capital gains taxes are still imposed on gold and silver for state income tax purposes. After establishing gold and silver as legal tender, South Carolina should repeal the capital gains tax to completely open the door to using it as money. It goes on to say, as the Sound Money Defense League explains, and I quote, practically speaking, state laws that recognize gold and silver as money restore a government view of precious metals as the favored form of money, a currency rather than a piece of property or other asset. Under using this logic, it would be inappropriate for a state to levy taxes when the precious metals are used or exchanged. So actually, we've got the same thing here in the UK. The sovereign is legal tender, and I know the sovereign costs more than £1. It is the face value, legal face value of a gold sovereign is £1, and that's why there is no capital gains tax on sovereigns, which is something a lot of people don't know, right? And all other UK gold and silver coins, coins of the realm, right? Not foreign coins. So let's have a look here. Let's finish off this article and go on onto other subjects. Background. The United States Constitution states in Article 1, Section 10, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debt. Currently, all debts and taxes in South Carolina are either paid with Federal Reserve notes, aka dollars, which were authorized as legal tender by Congress or with coins issued by the U.S. Treasury, very few of which have gold or silver in them. Passage of H4678 would reestablish gold and silver as legal tender in the state and take a step toward that constitutional requirement, ignored for decades in every state. It would also begin the process of abolishing the Federal Reserve System by attacking it from the bottom up, pulling the rug out from under it by working to make its functions irrelevant at the state and local levels, and setting the stage to undermine the Federal Reserve monopoly by introducing competition in the monetary system. Constitutional tender expert Professor William Green said when people in multiple states actually start using gold and silver instead of Federal Reserve notes, it would effectively nullify the Federal Reserve and end the federal government's monopoly on money. So, and he also notes, over time, as residents of the state use both Federal Reserve notes and silver and gold coins, the fact that the coins hold their value more than Federal Reserve notes do will lead to a reverse Gresham's law effect, where good money, gold and silver coins, will drive out bad money, Federal Reserve notes. As this happens, a cascade of events can begin to occur, including the flow of real wealth toward the state's treasury, an influx of banking business from outside of the state, as people in other states carry out their desire to bank with sound money, and an eventual outcry against the use of Federal Reserve notes for any transactions. Once things get to that point, Federal Reserve notes would become largely unwanted and irrelevant for ordinary people. Nullifying the Fed on a state-by-state level is what will get us there. What's next? H4678 will be officially introduced and referred to the House Judiciary Committee when that regular session adjourns on January 13th, 2020. It will have to pass committee by a majority vote before moving forward in the legislative process. So this is going to take a while, but it's a step in the right direction. And the Fed, right? It's an easier way, but it's more. It will take longer because there doesn't seem to be enough support in the federal government, like Congress and Senate in DC, to really abolish the Fed. So the states could do it, like Utah, Oklahoma, Wyoming, and now South Carolina want to do, right? So I find this very interesting. So before I go into the markets this morning, there's another very important story in my opinion, and this is I'm taking it out of kitco.com, and it's about Poland, the sovereign country of Poland. Gold symbolizes strength. Poland repatriates 100 tons from London. Well, they mean the Bank of England, right? So this is the story. After boosting its gold reserves for the past 2 years, Poland is bringing its gold back home. In its latest move, Poland repatriated 100 tons of gold from the Bank of England storage in London to show the strength of the country's economy, said the National Bank of Poland on Monday. The gold symbolizes the strength of the country. Poland's precious metals will now be stored at in the central bank's treasury. So Poland has stepped up its gold buying as it purchased 125 tons during the past 2 years, increasing its reserves to 228.6 tons. NBP said, National Bank of Poland, total gold reserves are now worth $10.8 billion, with half of the reserves still stored in England. Well, they need to get all those reserves back to Poland, I would say. Look at what the Bank of England and the BIS did to the Czechoslovak gold when the Germans invaded Czechoslovakia in 1938. I've spoken about that in my videos about the BIS, right? I'm not going to go through that in more details, but you can't trust the Bank of England, in my opinion. Bank of England, they have about 5,000 tons stored there. Only 300 tons is UK gold, right? The rest is foreign countries. So yeah, 100 tons is not much, but it gives the signal, right? And what do the Bank of England do with the gold that they have there? Why do people store it there? Well, they allow the LBMA, they work together with the LBMA to lease that gold to the bullion banks, to the Goldman Sachs's, to the UBS's, to the HSBC's, to the JP Morgan's, so they can lease that gold and sell it into the market, paper gold, to keep the price of gold suppressed. So the more countries that take that gold away from the Bank of England, the better it is for their sovereignty, the better it is to expose this corrupt fiat money system controlled by the central banks. And it looks like the move towards that is going to be a grassroots movement, just like we see with South Carolina and some other states that have done that in the United States. It's not just the Bank of England, it's the Federal Reserve as well, right? So now let's look at where the markets are. It's 8:26 a.m. I have gone on for a while, but sometimes you've got stuff to tell, stuff to report. Yeah, the stock market is continuing to make all-time highs. It's very easy when you're at an all-time high and the Fed's pumping billions and billions into the market. You just have to go up a point the next day and you're making all-time highs. We're still seeing headlines like this. Asian shares climbed as Trump says U.S.-China trade deal near, right? I wonder what will happen if they agree to a trade deal. Is it buy the rumor, sell the fact? Who knows? Spot gold is down slightly. It's a frustrating correction it's been, but that's the way gold is. Bull markets are frustrating. That's why they call it a bull market. It's hard to stay on the bull, right? One of my friends from the city yesterday, he's a gold bug like me, a proponent of sound money, sent me a text and said this correction has been really frustrating. He told me, though, he thinks the cycle will turn on December 6th. I'm not sure where he got that date from. I did reply to him saying, where did you get that from, if you don't mind me asking? He hasn't replied back. That's the date he says. Am I saying gold? I believe him and he will be right 100%. No, this is just what he thinks, right? So yeah, gold is down just over $2. The range has been 1457.80 to 1463.50. We did see gold rebound well yesterday. That's the only positive. Right now, I think we got down to almost 1450. Silver outperformed yesterday. Today, it's not doing as well. It's down about 5 cents. So following gold, it's at 1702. Range has been 17 to 1713. The Dow future, guess what? It's up, surprisingly, right? Up 33 points. S&P is up 7. NASDAQ 100 futures up 22. So right now, yeah, there are no, well, there are more, a lot more potential buyers than potential sellers in the stock market. I always remember there was a saying, just kind of in the city, in the markets, people say, why is the market going up? People would say, well, there are more buyers than sellers. And then there's a guy, he came from the States to visit us at one of my firms, and he said, that comment actually is not completely right. What you need to say is that there's more potential buyers than potential sellers, because the number of sellers in terms of shares is always the same. If someone buys 100 shares, someone sells 100. What makes the market go up or down is more potential buyers or more potential sellers, right? So anyway, the pound is down 0.2%, 128.40. Euro still stuck just above 110, not really moving that much. Dollar has been rising steadily against the yen. We're now above 109. It's only up 0.1 overnight though. And I saw the dollar dropped a little bit against the yuan. Right now it's up 0.1 versus the yuan at 702.09. Crude oil remains firm. WTI is 58.30, unchanged overnight. Brent now at 63.25, unchanged as well. And I've noticed to finish off, even though we keep making new all-time highs in the stock market, the 10-year yield is quite tame and hasn't really gone up. It's still at 174, unchanged overnight. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you share it far and wide as well. That's important so we get the message out. The message of sound money, of how this monetary system is screwed up, right? Sound money translates into freedom, small government, less socialism, less wars, right? And make sure you also follow me on Twitter, on Steemit, and on DTube. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.